The twin suns of Vorlax burned above the dusty sky. The air was filled with the noise of alien traders shouting prices, selling everything from glowing crystals to living pets. The city of Varnus was famous for its grand market, a place where anything could be bought if you had the courage or the credits. Eli Turner walked through the crowd, his human face attracting curious eyes. He was an engineer from Earth, known for building machines that could survive any planet's atmosphere. He had come here to buy rare parts for his ship, not trouble, but fate had a strange way of changing plans. He passed rows of cages filled with small alien creatures. Their eyes followed him as he walked, and the smell of metal and fear filled the air. At the far end of the market, a crowd had gathered near a large stage. The air buzzed with whispers, as if something unusual was about to happen. Curious, Eli moved closer. A loud alien voice echoed from the stage. "Next for sale, the defective one." The crowd laughed cruelly, throwing scraps and coins toward the stage. Then Eli saw her. She was young, maybe 16 by human years. Her skin shimmered like silver and her eyes glowed faint blue. Chains wrapped around her arms and neck, connecting her to a metal post like an animal. The auctioneer tugged her forward, shouting, "A failed experiment, but she still breathes. Who wants her?" The girl didn't cry. She only stared at the crowd, her eyes empty but strangely calm. Eli felt something twist in his chest. He told himself to walk away. This wasn't his business. But then she looked at him, straight into his eyes. Her lips trembled, her voice soft but clear. "Can you buy me?" she whispered, "and take me as your slave?" The words hit him like a blade. For a moment, everything around him went silent. Only her voice echoed in his head. Eli blinked, thinking he imagined it, but she "Okay again, louder this time. Please, human, take me away from here." The crowd roared with laughter, mocking her plea. The auctioneer smirked. "Look, she likes humans now. Maybe she'll make a good pet." Eli's fists tightened. He looked at her again and noticed her tears weren't normal. They glowed like liquid light, falling onto the dusty floor. He had seen many alien species, but none like her. Something about her face, her fear, her quiet strength, reminded him of a human child. "How much?" he asked suddenly, his voice cold. The auctioneer blinked, surprised. "You want this one? She's worthless," the alien sneered. "But if you want her, pay 5,000 credits." Eli didn't even bargain. He tossed the credit chip to the alien and walked to the stage. The auctioneer laughed. "Your loss, human," and unlocked the chains. The girl stumbled forward, her body weak. Eli caught her before she fell. Her skin was cold like metal, but soft like flesh. She looked up at him, whispering, "You shouldn't have done that." Eli frowned. "Why not?" She looked around, eyes filled with fear. "Because now they'll come for you too." Before he could ask who, a sharp sound cut through the air, a metallic drone hovering nearby, its red eye flashing. The crowd scattered as the drone spoke. "Unauthorized transaction detected. Fugitive identified." Eli grabbed her hand. "Move!" They ran through the maze of stalls as blasters fired behind them. He pushed through a vendor's tent, sparks flying as a laser hit the metal roof. The girl followed silently, though her breath was fast and her chains clinked with every step. They reached a narrow alley where Eli's small cargo ship waited. He slammed the control pad and the door hissed open. The girl hesitated, looking back at the market. "They'll never stop," she whispered. Eli pulled her inside. "Then let's make them try." The ship's engines roared to life, lifting off into the crimson sky. As the market below grew smaller, Eli glanced at her again. "Who are you?" he asked. She met his gaze, her voice trembling. "My name is Lyra," she said softly, "and I was never supposed to exist." The words chilled him. Outside, the first wave of patrol ships began to chase them. Inside, the girl who called herself Lyra stared out the window, her glowing eyes reflecting the stars, and somewhere deep inside her, a hidden power began to awaken. The ship flew through the stormy skies of Vorlax, chased by 3 patrol drones. Eli's hands moved fast across the control panel, trying to shake them off. The engines screamed as he pulled the ship into the clouds, lightning flashing around them. Inside, the alien girl sat quietly, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dim light. "Hold on," Eli muttered as a drone fired a laser that missed by inches. He flipped a switch, releasing a burst of energy from the ship's thrusters. The blast blinded the drones for a moment, giving him a chance to escape into open space. When the stars finally filled the window, Eli let out a shaky breath. They were safe. For now. He turned to the girl, who was staring silently at her own hands. Her chains still hung around her wrists, the metal scorched from the chase. Eli grabbed a tool and cut them loose. "You're free now," he said. But she didn't smile. She just whispered, "No one like me is ever free." Eli frowned. "What does that mean?" She looked up, her glowing eyes meeting his. It means I shouldn't exist. He sat down across from her, trying to stay calm. Start from the beginning. After a long pause, she spoke, her voice soft but steady. My name is Lyra, she said. I was made in a lab on this planet, not born. Eli blinked. Made? She nodded. I'm not just alien and not just human. She touched the side of her head gently. They mixed your DNA with ours to make something new. Eli leaned back, shocked. Why would they do that? Lyra's eyes dimmed. Because they wanted peace. She explained that many years ago, during the human-alien Cold War, both sides feared total destruction. So, a secret project called Eden was created. Scientists tried to make a hybrid species that could understand both sides, but when the war ended, the experiment was called unnatural. Every hybrid was destroyed. Except her. Eli listened in silence, his mind racing. Who ran the project, he asked. Lyra's hands trembled. Humans, she said, and the Council of Vorlax. They promised to protect us, but when the peace deal was signed, they erased everything. Every record, every name. Her voice broke slightly. I ran before they could erase me too. Eli's chest tightened. So they're hunting you because you're proof of what they did. Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, they call me a defective creation, but I think they're afraid I might show others what they did. She looked down at her hands again, her silver fingers trembling. When they made me, they gave me something they didn't understand. Eli leaned forward. What do you mean? She closed her eyes and suddenly, a faint blue light appeared around her palms. The air vibrated softly, and one of Eli's broken tools on the table began to float. I can feel energy, she whispered. I can move it, shape it, sometimes even heal with it. Then the glow vanished, and she looked exhausted. Eli stared in disbelief. You're not defective, Lyra. You're extraordinary. She shook her head. No, I'm Dangero. Bus. They said hybrids could lose control, that we might destroy planets if we ever got angry. Eli smiled faintly. Well, let's try not to make you angry then. For the first time, Lyra almost smiled. It was small and uncertain, but real. She looked at him with curious eyes. Why did you buy me? Eli sighed. Because you asked me to. Lyra tilted her head, confused. No one has ever listened when I asked for help. He looked at her quietly. Then it's about time someone did. The moment felt fragile, peaceful, but it didn't last long. A loud beep echoed from the ship's console. Eli turned to the screen and froze. A message was flashing in red letters. Galactic alert. Human smuggler aiding illegal experiment. Wanted dead or alive. Lyra gasped. They already found us. Eli cursed under his breath. They move fast. He checked the radar. 3 new signals were approaching from the nearby moon. Lyra stood up, her body shaking. You should let me go. Maybe they'll spare you. Eli looked at her sharply. That's not happening. He ran to the control chair, setting a new course toward a mining colony on the dark side of the moon. Lyra grabbed the side of the cockpit as the ship dived through space. Her voice trembled. You don't understand. If they catch us, they won't just kill me. They'll erase you too. Eli didn't look back. Then they'll have to catch us first. The ship vanished into the shadow of the moon, chased by glowing trails of enemy fire. Inside, Lyra stared at the man who risked everything for her. For the first time, she wondered if humans were truly the monsters the Council had told her about. Maybe, just maybe, this one was different. And deep within her chest, something began to feel alive. Something she didn't have a word for yet. The moon's shadow swallowed their ship as they hid behind a curtain of dust and silence. Eli shut down the engines, letting the ship drift quietly in the darkness. Outside, the stars shimmered like cold fire, and 3 patrol ships searched the skies like hungry predators. Inside, only the soft hum of the life support filled the air. Lyra sat near the window, her silver skin reflecting the faint light of distant suns. Her eyes followed the patrol ships as they passed, her hands clenched tightly together. They won't stop until they find me, she whispered, her voice trembling like a breaking string. Eli didn't answer, his eyes fixed on the radar, watching the red dots move closer and closer. After what felt like hours, the patrols turned away, their engines fading into the distance. Eli exhaled slowly. We're safe for now, he said, but his tone didn't sound sure. Lyra looked at him. You should have left me. Eli turned his head sharply. I don't leave people behind. She stared at him for a moment, as if trying to understand a language that wasn't spoken with words. Eli stood and walked toward the small repair station at the back of the ship. One of the engines had been damaged during their escape, and he needed to fix it before they could move again. He opened a panel, sparks flying as he began to work. Lyra watched him silently, then stepped closer. "Let me help," she said. He handed her a small power cell. "Hold this steady." When she touched it, a faint blue glow surrounded her fingers. The broken cell began to vibrate softly, and before Eli's eyes, the cracks started to close. The device hummed to life, fully repaired. Eli blinked. "You just fixed it." Lyra smiled faintly. "I can feel energy, remember?" He chuckled softly. "I'm beginning to believe it." But his smile faded when the radar beeped again. Faint signals, closing in fast. "Damn, they found our trail," Eli said, jumping into the pilot seat. Lyra gripped the chair beside him. "They must have tracked my energy." Eli started the engines. "Then let's give them something to chase." The ship roared back to life, shooting out of the moon's shadow like a spark from fire. Lazy. Stars flashed behind them, cutting through the emptiness of space. Eli twisted the controls, diving between asteroid belts. The rocks spun past them, huge and deadly. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. "Turn left!" she shouted suddenly. Eli obeyed without question. A missile streaked past where they had been a second earlier. "How did you—" he began. "I can feel their movement," she said quickly. "I can sense the energy of their ships before they fire." Eli grinned. "Then keep feeling. We're not dying today." Together they danced through the stars, a human and an alien, fighting the entire galaxy just to stay alive. After a long, chaotic chase, the last patrol ship exploded behind them, hit by its own missile. Eli laughed breathlessly. "We did it." Lyra smiled, her body shaking from exhaustion. "I've never felt so alive." But before the joy could settle, the ship's alarm began to beep. Eli frowned. "We've lost fuel pressure. We need to land." He scanned the nearby map and spotted a small planet. Dark, quiet, uninhabited. "Hang on," he said, guiding the ship toward it. They broke through the thin atmosphere and landed hard on rocky ground, dust rising like a storm. The engines died, and silence filled the cockpit. Eli leaned back, breathing hard. "We'll stay here for the night." Lyra nodded weakly, her hands glowing faintly. "I can help repair the ship tomorrow." Eli looked at her with worry. "You use too much energy back there. You need rest." She smiled softly. "You sound like someone who cares." He looked away, pretending not to hear. Outside, the alien night was cold and endless, the sky filled with strange purple stars. Lyra sat by the window, staring at the horizon. Her thoughts drifted to the past, to the lab where she was made, the scientists who treated her like a tool. She wondered if she was truly alive, or just a mistake given breath. Eli came over, handing her a small blanket. "You should sleep." Lyra looked up, surprised. "Humans take care of strangers?" "Only the ones who need it," Eli said quietly, walking away. She watched him go, her eyes softening. "Then maybe," she whispered, "humans aren't all monsters." As the ship grew quiet, Lyra closed her eyes. But deep inside her chest, something stirred. A pulse of energy, faint but growing. It called to her like a voice she couldn't understand. Outside, far beyond the stars, a dark fleet received a signal. A hidden beacon had just activated. The hybrid girl was alive, and the hunt was only beginning. The morning on the barren planet came with a pale blue light. The sky shimmered with silent storms, and the wind whispered across the stones. Inside the small ship, Eli was already awake, repairing a cracked engine valve. His hands were steady, but his thoughts were not. Lyra sat nearby, her silver skin reflecting the weak sunlight that entered through the ship's cracked window. She looked weaker than before, her glow dimmer. Eli noticed it every time he glanced her way. "You're still tired," he said quietly, not looking up. She smiled faintly. "You worry too much." He gave a short laugh. "I don't worry, I just don't like watching someone fall apart." Lyra tilted her head. "Is that what humans call care?" He met her eyes for a moment and said nothing. She chuckled softly, the sound like wind through glass. For a few hours, they worked together in silence. Lyra used her energy to power a broken circuit, and Eli adjusted the controls. When the repairs were done, they sat down with 2 metal cups of nutrient drink. It tasted like dirt, but neither of them complained. After a while, Lyra asked quietly, "Why did you help me, Eli?" He froze for a moment, the question sinking deep. "I don't know," he said finally. "Maybe because you looked like you needed someone." She frowned. "That's not an answer." He sighed, setting his cup down. "When I was younger," Eli began, "I had a sister named Mara. She was curious, brave, and too kind for the world we lived in. One day during the war between humans and the Verlaxians, she tried to help a wounded alien soldier." People saw her as a traitor. His voice grew quieter. She never came back. Lyra's glowing eyes softened. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Eli nodded. "When I saw you chained on that stage, I remembered her face. She believed that kindness could end wars. And I guess I wanted to believe that too." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was heavy but warm. Lyra reached out slowly and touched his hand. Her skin was cool, her touch gentle. "Your sister was right," she said softly. "Kindness does end wars. It just takes time." Eli looked at her, seeing something new in her eyes. Not fear, but hope. A strange peace filled the ship, but peace never lasts long in the galaxy. The radar suddenly blinked red. Eli jumped up. "They found us again." Outside, clouds shifted as 3 ships descended from orbit. Lyra stood beside him, energy already gathering in her hands. "No," Eli said sharply. "You're too weak." She shook her head. "If I don't fight, they'll kill us both." The ship shook violently as laser blasts hit the ground nearby. Eli ran to the controls, starting the engines. "Hold on!" he shouted. The ship lifted into the air, dodging another explosion. Lyra stood behind him, her eyes glowing bright blue. Energy rippled from her hands, forming a shimmering shield around the ship. The enemy fire hit the barrier and scattered into sparks. Eli stared in disbelief. "You're controlling it better now." Lyra gritted her teeth. "Not for long." Her voice trembled as the light around her flickered. A final blast struck the shield, breaking it apart. Lyra screamed, collapsing to the floor. Eli turned the ship sharply, diving into the planet's canyon. "Stay with me," he shouted. Lyra's body glowed faintly, fading in and out. "I used too much energy," she whispered weakly. "I can't feel my body." Eli grabbed her hand, his voice breaking. "Don't say that." The ship raced through the canyon, rocks crumbling around them. Eli's focus was split between flying and watching her fading light. Finally, he found a cave large enough to hide in and landed roughly. He rushed to her side, her breathing shallow. "You're going to be okay," he said, though he didn't believe it. Lyra's lips moved, her voice barely a whisper. "Don't let them take me back." "They won't," Eli said firmly, gripping her hand tighter. She smiled faintly. "You sound like my father." Eli blinked, surprised. "You had one?" She nodded weakly. "A scientist. He called me his miracle." Her eyes fluttered closed. Eli held her in his arms, feeling helpless. Outside, the sky rumbled with thunder as the enemy ships circled above. Inside, the girl who was never supposed to exist slept in the arms of the only human who ever believed she should. Eli looked down at her glowing face and whispered, "I'll protect you, Lyra, no matter what it costs." And as he said those words, the ship's sensors detected a new signal in orbit. A massive cruiser, the mark of the Galactic Council, had just arrived. The hunt was no longer secret. Now the entire galaxy was coming for them. The cave was silent except for the faint hum of the ship's broken engine. Eli sat beside Lyra, her silver skin now dull, her light fading. Outside, thunder rolled across the red sky as the Council's ships searched above. They had only a few hours before the hunters found them again. Eli pressed a patch on Lyra's arm, trying to stop her energy loss. Her eyes fluttered open slowly, glowing faint blue. "You should have left me," she whispered weakly. Eli shook his head, his voice faint. "Eddie but rough. And let them kill you? Not a chance." She looked at him with confusion, her voice trembling. "Why do you keep risking your life for me?" He stared at her for a long moment. "Because your life means something, even if they don't see it yet." Lyra's eyes softened, and for a second she smiled. A real smile, small but warm. Then her body trembled as pain shot through her veins, glowing lines spreading beneath her skin. Eli reached for her hand. "What's happening?" Lyra gasped. "My power. It's unstable. It burns when I'm weak." Energy flared briefly around her body, and the ship's metal walls vibrated like a heartbeat. Eli held her still, trying to keep her calm. "Breathe. Just breathe. You're okay." Outside, the scanners flashed red. A fleet approaching fast. Eli cursed under his breath and checked the monitors. 5 ships, all marked with the Council's insignia, surrounding the canyon. Lyra saw his face and understood instantly. "They found us," she whispered, her voice shaking. Eli grabbed his blaster and looked toward the exit. "No," she said weakly. "You can't fight them all." He turned to her with determination. "I'm not fighting to win. I'm fighting to keep you alive." Lyra tried to stand, her body trembling. "Then I'll fight too." Eli shook his head. "You can barely move." But Lyra's eyes began to glow brighter. "I don't need to move." The cave entrance exploded as soldiers poured in, armored and armed. Eli opened fire, stunning the first 2. Blaster bolts lit up the darkness like lightning. Lyra lifted her hands, blue energy swirling around her fingers. A wave of light burst outward, throwing the soldiers off their feet. Eli ducked behind a rock, shielding his eyes from the brightness. When he looked up, he saw Lyra standing, floating slightly above the ground. Her voice echoed through the cave. "I don't want to hurt anyone." But her power answered her pain, not her will. Energy spiraled out from her body, shaking the walls. Rocks fell as the soldiers screamed, their weapons melting in the light. Eli ran toward her, shouting her name. "Lyra, stop!" She turned, her glowing eyes full of fear. "I can't control it." Without thinking, Eli reached her and grabbed her shoulders. The energy burned his skin, but he didn't let go. "Listen to me," he shouted. "You're not a weapon. You're alive, Lyra. You're human too." His words cut through the chaos like a beam of light. Lyra gasped, her power flickering, and then collapsing in on itself. The cave went silent, the air thick with smoke. Lyra fell into Eli's arms, unconscious, her glow dim but still there. Eli looked around. The soldiers were gone. Some fled, some lay stunned. But the scanners showed new signals approaching. Bigger ships, stronger weapons. The Council's main cruiser had arrived. He carried Lyra back to the ship, setting her gently on the bed. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Eli's hands trembled as he powered up the engines. He looked at her one more time, whispering, "Hold on, just hold on." Outside, bright lights filled the sky. The Council had surrounded them completely. A voice came through the comms, cold and commanding. "Human vessel, surrender the experiment. You are aiding a Class A bioweapon." Eli gritted his teeth, replying, "Her name is Lyra, and she's not your weapon." The voice replied calmly, "Then you will both be destroyed." Eli's mind raced, searching for an escape. The only way out was through the storm clouds above the canyon, unstable but wide enough for one desperate ship. He took a deep breath, hands gripping the controls. "Let's see how much this old ship can take," he muttered. Engines roared, fire burst from the exhaust, and they shot toward the storm. Lightning flashed around them as energy bolts from the Council ships followed. Lyra stirred weakly, whispering, "You can't outrun them." Eli smiled grimly. "Maybe not, but I can make them regret chasing us." He pulled a lever, releasing the last of his ship's energy cells. The cells exploded behind them, a blinding flash filling the sky. The Council ships scattered, blinded by the blast. Eli's ship spun through the storm, battered but still flying. When the light faded, they were gone, vanished into the dark clouds. Eli checked the radar. No more signals. They had escaped again, but at a terrible cost. He looked at Lyra's pale face, her body still glowing faintly. "You saved us," she whispered, barely conscious. Eli shook his head. "No, Lyra, you did." Outside, lightning rolled across the endless sky, and as the ship drifted into silence, both of them knew the war for freedom had only just begun. The ship drifted through the quiet dark of deep space. Stars shimmered like frozen fire outside, and silence filled every corner. Eli sat in the cockpit, his eyes half open, the glow of the dashboard lighting his tired face. Behind him, Lyra lay on the small medical bed, still weak but alive. Her body shimmered softly, her pulse slow but steady. Eli checked her vitals again, whispering to himself, "You're strong, you'll make it." He hadn't slept in 2 days, too afraid she might stop breathing if he closed his eyes. Every time he looked at her, he remembered her words. "I was never supposed to exist." The galaxy had gone silent after the last battle, but silence was never peace. The Council would regroup soon, and Eli needed answers before they found him again. He opened the ship's archive and searched the name that haunted him. Project Eden. Lines of encrypted text filled the screen, locked behind layers of security. But Eli had built systems far tougher than this. And after an hour, the files cracked open. What he found made his blood run cold. Project Eden had been a joint operation between humans and the Verlaxian Council. Its goal, to create life that could connect two species through shared DNA and emotion. But the final report was darker than science. It said, subjects developing emotional intelligence pose a risk. Terminate all experiments immediately. Eli scrolled further and stopped at a name. Dr. Marin Aves, the head scientist who led the project. He stared at the name for a long time before whispering, "You're still out there, aren't you?" If anyone could tell him the truth about Lyra, it was this man. And according to the file, Marin was hiding on a station orbiting the planet Solara 9. Eli turned the ship toward the coordinates. As the engines came alive, Lyra stirred weakly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Where are we going?" He smiled faintly. "To find someone who owes you your life." She blinked slowly. "I dreamt of fire and voices." Eli's hands tightened on the controls. "Then let's find the people who lit that fire." Hours later, the station appeared in the distance, an old ring-shaped facility half hidden by solar dust. Eli docked the ship and carried Lyra inside. The corridors were silent and cold, the walls covered with dust and flickering lights. At the far end, they found a small lab still running on emergency power. A thin old man turned as they entered, his eyes widening. "Eli Turner," he said softly. "And the girl, you brought her back." Eli pointed his blaster. "You're Dr. Marin Aves." The old man raised his hands. "I was, long ago." Lyra stepped forward weakly, her voice trembling. "You made me." Marin nodded slowly, tears filling his eyes. "Yes, child, you are the last of them." Eli's jaw tightened. "The last experiment you abandoned?" Marin shook his head. "I didn't abandon them. I tried to save them." His voice cracked. "When the council ordered their destruction, I hid you. I thought you died." Lyra looked at him with pain and anger. "They called me a weapon." Marin sighed deeply. "You were meant to be a bridge, not a bomb." He pointed to an old holographic screen showing files and images of young hybrids laughing and playing. "They were children, like you," he whispered. "They wanted peace more than any of us." Eli's voice was cold. "And now they're all gone because of fear." Marin nodded slowly. "Yes, fear and power." Then he looked at Lyra again. "But you are special, Lyra. Your body can heal as much as it can destroy." Lyra frowned. "Heal?" He smiled weakly. "Your energy isn't made for war. It's made to restore what war breaks." Eli looked stunned. "You mean she can save lives?" Marin nodded. "If she learns to control it, yes." Lyra's eyes filled with light. "Then I don't have to be a monster." Marin smiled sadly. "You never were, child." Before Eli could ask more, alarms began to blare. Red lights flashed across the lab and Marin's face turned pale. "They found us," he whispered. "The council's ships. They're here." Eli ran to the window, seeing massive shadows approaching through the dust. He turned to Marin. "We have to go." Marin shook his head. "Take her and run. I'll slow them down." Lyra grabbed his arm. "No, you'll die." He smiled softly. "I've already lived too long in regret." He placed his hand on her chest, his voice gentle. "Remember this. Your power is light, not fire." Then he pushed her toward Eli, shouting, "Go!" Eli pulled Lyra back to the ship as explosions echoed through the station. The metal walls burned bright as the council's soldiers stormed in. Lyra looked back once, tears glowing like stars. "He saved me again." Eli's voice was low and heavy. "Then we make his sacrifice mean something." The ship broke free from the collapsing station, fire lighting the black sky. Behind them, Dr. Marin's lab vanished in a burst of lays. Eli set a new course, his voice steady. "We tell the galaxy the truth." Lyra looked at the stars, whispering, "Then they'll come for us all." Eli glanced at her with a grim smile. "Good. It's time someone did." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, and somewhere beyond them, the truth of Project Eden waited to change everything. The stars burned quietly across the endless dark. Eli's ship glided between them, scarred and silent. Inside, the air smelled of smoke and metal, the price of survival. Lyra sat near the window, her silver skin faintly glowing, her eyes lost in the galaxies beyond. Dr. Marin's sacrifice haunted them both. Eli hadn't spoken in hours, his jaw clenched, his eyes fixed on the controls. Finally, Lyra broke the silence, her voice soft. "He died because of me." Eli shook his head. "No, Lyra, he died for you." Her voice trembled. "What's the difference?" Eli looked at her. "One is guilt, the other is purpose." She turned her gaze away, her reflection shimmering in the glass. "I don't know which one I'm supposed to feel," she whispered. Eli leaned back, tired but determined. "Then choose the one that makes you keep going." Lyra looked at him, her eyes uncertain but warm. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the hum of the stars filled the silence. Then the comm system crackled. A cold voice echoed through the speakers. "Human vessel, this is the Galactic Council." Eli froze and Lyra's hands clenched tightly. The voice continued. "Surrender the experiment, and your execution will be painless." Eli smiled grimly. "I think we've heard this one before." He switched off the channel and turned to Lyra. "They've blocked our path to the communication tower." Lyra nodded. "That's where you plan to send the truth." Eli's eyes glowed with quiet fire. "Every planet in this galaxy will know what they did. The hybrids, the murders, all of it." Lyra took a deep breath. "Then let's finish it." They set course for the nearest relay station, an enormous satellite orbiting a dying star. As they approached, dozens of council ships appeared on the radar. Eli's face hardened. "They're guarding the truth." Lyra's voice was calm. "Then we break the chains." The ship shuddered as the first wave of plasma fire hit the hull. Eli maneuvered sharply, dodging through debris. "We can't hold much longer." Lyra closed her eyes, the blue light spreading across her body again. "Keep flying," she whispered. "I'll protect us." Eli shouted. "No, it'll kill you." She opened her eyes, glowing brighter than ever. "Then I'll die free." A wave of light exploded from her, expanding across the ship. The energy formed a barrier of pure brilliance. Lasers bent and vanished against it, like rain touching fire. Eli stared in awe. "You're doing it." Lyra smiled faintly. "He said it was light, not fire. Now I understand." But her body was trembling, her glow flickering like a dying flame. Eli's voice broke. "Lyra, stop. You'll burn out." She looked at him, tears glowing in her eyes. "It's okay, Eli. I was never meant to last, but you can make this mean something." She pressed her hand against the control panel, sending a surge of energy through the ship. The engines roared to life, the shield flaring brighter than a star. They pierced through the blockade, fire all around them. Eli aimed the ship straight at the relay station. "Hold on," he shouted. They crashed into the docking bay, metal screaming, smoke filling the air. Eli stumbled out, half dragging Lyra toward the transmission console. She collapsed beside him, her body dimming fast. Eli's hands shook as he connected the device, uploading the files Dr. Marin had left behind. Every truth, every secret of Project Eden, now flowing through the stars. On screens across the galaxy, images appeared. The children in labs, the experiments, the council's lies. Billions watched in silence as the truth shattered their faith. Ancil's ships swarmed outside, firing relentlessly. Eli turned to Lyra. "It's done. They'll know." Lyra smiled faintly. "Then it was worth it." Her light dimmed, her body trembling. "Do humans believe in souls?" Eli nodded slowly, tears in his eyes. "We do," she whispered. "Then maybe I'll find yours one day." The station shook violently as explosions tore through its walls. Eli held her close, refusing to let go. Her last words were soft. "You freed me." And then the light inside her spread outward, gentle, endless, and bright. It filled the entire station, spilling into space like a second sun. Every ship that tried to attack was blinded by it. Every world that saw it paused in awe. The energy faded slowly, leaving behind silence. When the light was gone, Lyra was gone too. Eli sat alone in the broken station, watching the sunrise over the dying star. He whispered softly, "You were never a weapon, Lyra. You were hope." And somewhere, deep in the fading glow of the star, a small pulse of blue light flickered once. As if answering him, Eli smiled through the tears. "Goodbye, kid," he said. "You earned your freedom." Outside, across 1,000 planets, voices began to rise. People demanded answers, demanded justice. The council's rule trembled under the weight of truth. And though one life was gone, her light had changed the galaxy forever. Because once, a chained girl asked a simple question, "Can you buy me and take me as your slave?" And a human answered, not with ownership, but with compassion. That single act lit a fire across the stars, and from that moment on, no one could ever put the light back in chains. Eri woke slowly, lying in the snow beside the broken outpost. Her crystal glowed softly, but Aaron was gone. She sat up, her small hands shaking. "Aaron?" she called weakly. Only silence answered her. She stumbled toward the wreckage, calling his name again, and then she saw him. Lying near the fallen generator, covered in frost but smiling faintly. His eyes were closed, his hands still stretched toward the sky. Eri fell beside him, tears freezing on her cheeks. She pressed her glowing crystal against his chest, whispering, "You gave me warmth, now let me give it back." The crystal pulsed, golden light flowing into him. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, Aaron gasped, a weak breath, but alive. His eyes opened slowly, meeting hers. "You didn't give up," he whispered. She smiled through tears. "You taught me that." Together, they watched the horizon. The once dead sky now shimmered with colors, blues, golds, and greens dancing like ribbons of fire. Aaron sat up weakly, looking at the readings on his wristband. "The warmth. It's spreading across the planet," he said softly. Eri nodded. "The world is waking." In the distance, the Virellan domes flickered to life one after another. Families who had hidden in the cold stepped outside, feeling heat for the first time in years. They looked toward the human outpost and saw the glow still burning there. News spread fast. Other species began sending ships with aid, inspired by the humans' act. But the humans themselves arrived first. Thousands of volunteers landed on Varela with supplies, medicine, and heat generators built from Aaron's design. They didn't come under orders. They came because they wanted to, each one carrying warmth in their hands and hearts. The council could no longer control the tide. Under pressure from billions of voices, they were forced to rewrite the laws. No longer would compassion be all interference. It became a right. The Human Warmth Accord, signed across worlds. It stated that empathy was a universal energy, and no law could stand against it. Aaron recovered slowly, but he refused to leave Varela. He stayed to help rebuild, teaching others how to use the heart generator safely. Ari became his assistant, and then his student, learning both science and humanity. She grew stronger every day, her crystal no longer dim. Her people called her Ari the Kind Flame, for she carried the warmth that could never die. Years later, when the world had healed, Ari stood before a great crowd. Aliens of every kind sat together, humans among them. A statue stood behind her, a human scientist holding the hand of a small alien child. She took a deep breath, her voice calm and clear. "Once, I went door to door searching for warmth," she said. "No one opened their doors except one human." The crowd was silent, listening to every word. He broke his laws to save a stranger, but his warmth saved a world. The crowd rose in quiet respect, and somewhere far above, orbiting satellites sent her speech across the stars. Children on distant planets listened to the tale of the man who chose kindness over command. They repeated his name softly, Aaron Vale. The human who taught the galaxy that warmth was not weakness, but strength. As night fell on Varela, the sky glowed gold again. Aaron stood beside Ari, older now, but still smiling. She looked up at him and said, "Do you think they'll remember?" He chuckled softly. "Maybe not all of them," he said, "but they'll feel it." "The warmth?" she asked. He nodded. "Yes, the warmth. It never dies. It just finds new hearts." The wind was gentle now, no longer cruel. The cold planet that once killed hope now carried life, and as the stars reflected in Ari's crystal, she whispered softly, "One human opened their door, and the galaxy never closed theirs again."